Take it away, Madam Chairwoman.
Okay, I'm taking the reading glasses off because that means I can't read you. But I'm Victoria Woodhull. If you don't know me, I'm the chair of the board of the Hurricane Island Outward Bound School. And I'm here. My job today is to welcome you to the 2020 HIOBS AGM. It goes without saying, this is a first. This is the first time we've had to do this in this format, but this year had a lot of firsts for us. And given that, I just wanted to share with you that we have up to 185 participants enrolled to be part of this today, plus staff. So I'm going to say 200 people involved. This is new for us, but in typical HIOBS fashion, we're going to make it fun, and we're going to make it the best AGM ever. With that said, how I'm doing this is I'm standing up because I thought I could not possibly address Outward Bound folks from a chair. I'm also going to visualize. What I see right now over here on the wall is the field staff. For some reason, they love sitting on that wall. I see right in front of me, Penn Williamson, Joan Welsh, Susan St. John, and the folks who like to sit in the front row. Right behind you, Peels, how you doing? Staff, folks with children running around, everybody talking, everybody saying hello, and way behind you, I see John McBride, the golf cart, and everybody setting up for the lobsters that we are not going to leave this meeting and eat today. That said, it's going to be fun. So settle into your chairs, outside, wherever you are, and enjoy today's AGM. We've made it creative. It's not going to be talking heads for an hour and a half. We have some videos, we have some music, we have some surprises. The content of the AGM and today will be a couple of things. We'd like to share information, let everybody know how the school's doing, what's been happening. We want to reflect on the past year. That'll be something. And we want to recognize and celebrate with various landmarks, various benchmarks, and various awards as we do at every AGM. With that said, Eric is going to take the lead in terms of the gathering of information and the dispelling of information. And there's going to be a time when we can all exchange questions and answers. However, I have 3 minutes, and I'm sure that's up, at which point I need to pass this off. But before I do that, remember I said that we're going to reflect on the past year. And since I'm going to be passing it eventually to Eric to do most of the talking, I want to say something about Eric and the past year. It was a doozy. And to get through the past year, it required incredible leadership. That leadership came from Eric Denny. He had everybody put their feet in the cockpit. He pulled out the nav box, he pulled out the toolbox, he asked us to dig into our pockets and put whatever we had out there on the chart. Pulled out the parallel rules, the grease pencil, little solo string, some duct tape. And Eric and his staff, the administrative staff, the support staff, and the field staff were incredible this year. I want to say that out loud right now because I don't see that it's on our agenda. From the board and from everybody around me, thank you to Eric and the administrative staff.
Welcome, friends. I wish you could be down here, and that's not going to be the first time or the last time that I'm going to say that. We miss all of you. There's nothing like having our AGM in person, but as Vic said, these are doozy of a time, and we do what we need to do in good Outward Bound spirit. But you can see behind me, we've got the sun slowly setting in the west. There's a light southwest wind blowing the hair on my head, and we're ready to go. And we want to make sure we welcome you to this wonderful evening together. So I'm here to talk a little bit about where we've been in 2020. And the story of 2020 actually really begins a couple of years ago in 2018-19, when the board finally said, okay, it's time to execute on our strategic plan. And if you'll remember from a couple of AGMs ago, that strategic plan, the goal was to really deepen the impact of our school and the mission of our organization on our students. When I say deepen the impact, it meant that our open enrollment courses, which traditionally lasted from anywhere from 14 to 22 days, we wanted to engage students prior to getting here on day one. And once they departed, to continue our relationship with them so that the legacy of their Outward Bound course stuck with them in deeper and stronger ways. It meant that our educational partners out there, our pinnacle scholars, we would deepen the relationship and dive into the social and emotional learning goals that those organizations had. It meant in Outward Bound Professional that we would not just have transactional programming where it was a commercial interruption from their day-to-day lives, but instead it was a longitudinal journey with Outward Bound where we worked with them for consecutive months or consecutive years to build a healthy culture within their organizations. In 2018 and 2019, we really started investing in the execution of that plan. We brought in new people. We brought in Andrew Spofford, our director of Outward Bound Professional. We brought in Julia Marr, our new development director. We brought in Amy Root as our director of education and innovation. We invested in a whole new program management sort of setup where we were trying to allow our field staff to have the opportunities and the training to be able to meet students in different ways, whether it was in our classrooms or on their classrooms and their campuses. So the investments were happening, and the board embarked in 2019 on the first capital campaign in nearly 25 years. It was amazing. We were poised to make good on all of the investments in 2020 that we had been making in 2018 and 2019. As we entered January 2020, wouldn't you know it, the pipeline for Outward Bound Professional and group education clients was rocking. We had 2 semester courses starting in January. They were filled to the brim. We had students in Florida and Costa Rica, and we were busier than we've ever been. In terms of the capital campaign, we had just completed the first phase. And in that first phase, 16 members of the board had committed and pledged over $3 million to support the goals of the campaign. We were rocking, and it felt really good. And then March came. We went to zero, literally. At some point, maybe next AGM over a glass of wine and a lobster, I'll tell you in more detail the story of how we just barely got 11th semester students over the Panamanian border back into Costa Rica, only to find out upon arrival in Costa Rica that we had 48 hours to get them on planes and get them back to the US because they were closing the international airport in San Jose. They were crazy times. After that, in the ensuing months, the work of the school was not about pica cents or pin ceremonies or closing circles. It was about financial contingency planning. It was about applying for Paycheck Protection Program loans. And unfortunately, it was about saying goodbye to folks as they were asked to go on furlough or leave the organization. It was some really tough goodbyes, but it was stuff that had to be done. It was work of the school to keep us alive. And I found myself, along with my team, in late March, early April, late April. Seems like on a weekly basis, we were developing a new plan with new information on how to deal with the pandemic environment and how we were going to get back to programming, and coming in after a tough weekend and having to rip up that plan and go to the next contingency. It was like some Sisyphean nightmare where you're doing all the work, but making none of the progress. In late May, it was time for the board to make a decision on which way we were going to go. Were we going to be able to pull off summer programming, or were we going to need to go into hibernation? The board had used 3 points of triangulation, as we called it, to make this decision. And those 3 points were these. The first one was the mission. Were we supposed to be out there? Could we still do some good with our students in this environment that we found ourselves in? The second was safety and health. Should we be out there? Did we know enough about the transmission of the virus to be able to ensure, to the greatest degree possible, that we'd be able to get students out on day one and bring them back home and safe at the end of their course? And then the third point of triangulation was financial. Should we commit the resources of staff training and operational development and mitigation plans and try to begin to operate in an environment that was unstable? Or should we wait, sit on the beach for a little bit, let the tide roll, get smarter, and save our resources for another day. At the end of May, at a board meeting, we decided that it was time to make the call, and we suspended the summer season. And I have to say, it was one of the toughest emotional decisions that I've made in my career in Outward Bound, because as I've said to you in many correspondence, for the first time in 56 years, we wouldn't have students in the field, and it broke my heart. But intellectually, it was the right thing to do. We were not ready to run programming in the summer of 2020. So in good Outward Bound spirit, we made the call and we moved on, and we didn't stop working. There was a handful of us. We continued to work on the policies and procedures needed to begin to understand how we could get back out into the field again. Our board and our council were stalwart. We met seems like we met every single week. The safety committee, the finance committee, every part of the organization was humming along. There was no hiatus in the work that needed to be done. It's just that we didn't have students in the field. And then in early August, we needed to make another call on whether or not we were prepared to run fall programming. And this is where it starts to get personal for me. As a school, we had made great strides. We had developed the COVID transmission mitigation protocols, a long way of saying we had plans to be able to get students into the field safely and get them out of the field safely and really minimize the chances that we would get COVID along the way. We had raised a lot of money for scholarships to ensure that the students who did want to go out this fall could go out, whether that's an educational group or a semester student. The work hadn't stopped and we hadn't stopped. And I believe we were ready to start programming in the fall. Unfortunately, when we looked out upon the macro national landscape, we had squandered months and months and months as a country. Our leadership had not taken advantage of the time or marshaled the energy and passion to move this country in a different direction as it relates to testing, as it relates to contact tracing. Masks became a political issue instead of a health and safety issue. So in early August, we had to make the call that we were not ready to run fall programming because we as a country had not done our jobs. There was a time for a little bit of reflection for me, and I thought long and hard about what Peter Willauer, POW, said, I don't know, must have been the late 60s, early 70s. It got passed to me when I came into the school a couple of years ago. But I think he said something to the effect of, it's our mission as a school to ensure that everybody, regardless of their station in life, gets on a HIOBS course. And we all know why that is. We all know why POW said that. Because on an Outward Bound course, you discover things that you can pull out when life gets hard. And life was hard this summer, and life continues to be hard. But things like compassion and tenacity, sensible self-denial, dealing with reality, not making excuses for the weather, sticking together with whoever you're surrounded with, whether they look different than you or came from a different place, whether they're rich or poor. And understanding that very simple concept, that thing called shared jeopardy, which is what happens to you happens to me. And if we all work together, we all move forward. And if we don't, we deal with the consequences. It got personal to me because we as a country never embraced that sense of shared jeopardy. I don't want to get political, and I'm sorry if this sounds political, but it's just the reality. And quite honestly, I wished that back, I don't know, in early June, we could have gotten the president, some of his administration, and members from both houses of Congress on a 28-day polling boat course. Because I guarantee you, had we done that, the summer would have looked very different in terms of how we came together as a country. Well, we are where we are right now. It's October 18th, 2020. We've taken the last month to do some amazing things, even though we have not truly been out in the field fully. We have had times where we've dipped our toes in the water. But we've been learning a lot of things. The hard work continues. And I'm going to pass it over to our good friend and my colleague, Andrew Spofford, to share a little bit more detail about what we've been doing in the last several months as it relates to students and student programming. But I would like to say, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later, that we are back. The board made a decision several weeks ago that we are going to resume programming in Florida. The program board will look very differently than it has in years past. We're not going to be doing a lot of short courses down in the Florida C program out of Big Pine Key like we have in the past. We're going to be running 4 long semester courses so that we can ensure that we have the right protocols in place to minimize the amount of COVID transmission that could potentially happen. It's a combination of social distancing for 14 days and testing as people come in. And we're confident that we can get back into the field in every way, shape, or form. Now, what's going to happen between now and then at the national level, I'm not sure. But rest assured, HIOBS will be ready. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Andrew to share a little bit about what's been taking up our days and nights here at the Hurricane Island Outward Bound School for the past several months. Andrew?
Hi folks, it's Andrew Spofford here. I got an opportunity to provide you with some causes for optimism and to share some accomplishments that have been important here at HIOBS in 2020. So let's start in the spring when Zoom became the platform for both collaboration and community here at HIOBS. First off, our Outward Bound professional crew met multiple times, both for the opportunity to be together, but also to practice some new tricks on a new platform. Some enterprise and crew members took an opportunity to develop 2 new remotely delivered sessions, the Solo Revisited and Evening Meeting, and they tested those with external participants. And then again, the Outward Bound professional crew was engaged with its partner, WGI, an engineering firm in West Palm Beach, Florida, to facilitate both their senior leadership team as well as a new cohort of emerging leaders who will take over the reins of this firm at some point in the future. Now let's take a moment to hear from some special guests.
Greetings from the University of Florida. Thank you to the Hurricane Island Outward Bound School for providing such a great experience for our students and being so easy to work with for the last 10 years.
Hi, this is Michael Borg from MEMEC, and we are about a year out from our Hurricane Island Outward Bound experience in Newry as a senior management team. And I have to tell you, 2020 is a year where all of us certainly had to use our skills as crew, not passengers. I want to thank you all again. I want to wish you luck.
Hey, thanks Reagan and Mike for sharing your thoughts. We appreciate hearing from you. So I want you to know that time out of the field has not gone wasted this summer at HIOBS. There have been plenty of needy projects finally getting the attention that they deserve. For one, a proprietary tool to Outward Bound Professional, the team alignment profile, was digitized to increase its ease of use both internally and with our external clients. And then at our base sites in Newry, at Wheeler Bay, and at Big Pine Key, it's taken many hands to tackle what seems like an endless list of fix-it and build-it tasks, and we're grateful to the staff on base who have taken part in those projects. And let me call out something quickly while I have a chance. If you're not following HIOBS on social media already, please take a look for us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and track our progress all the time. And for that matter, share it with your networks if you will. We'd appreciate your interaction. Let's hear from some more guests.
Hello everyone, my name is Eric. I went to Outward Bound about almost 3 years ago. Some of my most memorable times at Outward Bound were camping underneath the stars for sure. I had a canoeing and backpacking trip, so it was about 15 days long. And the backpacking trip was definitely harder, but it was definitely more fun because you just like camp out underneath the stars and have late dinner. The part that wasn't so much fun is when you woke up to pouring rain. Outward Bound really helped me because it just made me more comfortable in nature. I actually enjoy going out on the water now because I know how to swim. I know how to take care of myself and how to really respect nature and respect the water. So overall, I really loved my experience at Outward Bound. And yeah, thank you for listening to me today.
Isn't it great to hear from some external participants and partners of HIOBS? I love it. So another exciting development here at HIOBS, as well as throughout the OB USA network, is the launch of a new curricula called the Thriving Classroom. It's based on the Domains of Thriving framework, which Outward Bound created in collaboration with the Pear Institute. The Thriving Classroom will help educators to link social, emotional, and academic learning in their classrooms. Let's hear for a minute from Sarah Chestnut, who participated as a facilitator in a national pilot of the Thriving Classroom.
I'm excited about the potential reach that the content of the Thriving Classroom has. I think after participating in the pilot and seeing the passion that those educators shared, that there's a lot of potential to reach those in the classroom as well as in less traditional settings in education. So really excited to see where it goes.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm excited to work with you on the Thriving Classroom. I think a lot of our partners are going to really appreciate it. So recently, HIOBS has made great gains in delivering 2 in-person programs for partners here in the state of Maine. Let's talk to Cindy Brown. She program managed one of those engagements.
Hi, Cindy Brown coming to you from the Newry Mountain Center, where we just wrapped up a 3-day program with third-year medical residents from the Maine Dartmouth Family Medicine Practice Program. Great students. They really seem to appreciate the program we offered them. And despite the cold weather and the water freezing in our hand washing stations, it all went really well.
Hey, Cindy, thanks so much for your leadership in making that program such a success. I know from speaking with them that the participants were incredibly pleased with the time they got to spend in Newry with one another. So recently we hosted 2 additional programs for teenage participants. They are students in a program called Trekkers, another nonprofit in the Mid-Coast area. Trekkers cultivates the inherent strengths of young people through the power of long-term mentoring relationships, and we're excited to begin a new relationship with their organization and their students. Now let's hear from another guest.
Hello, my name is Melissa DILL. About 2 years ago, I participated in a Hurricane Island Outward Bound school program for corporate leaders. At this point in my career and at my age, I did some things I thought I would never do, and I conquered them. I was part of a team that flipped a boat over in a Maine harbor. I rock climbed, and I was the first person out of our group to rappel down the side of what felt like a mountain. It was a great challenge. It was a good experience, and I still benefit from it to this day. Have a good day.
Hey, thanks so much, Melissa. I still remember you and your team and your program so well. Appreciate you checking in. So it will come as no surprise to anybody here, I think, that HIOBS and our crew are entirely focused on preparedness and readiness to program into the future. And a big part of that is training and retraining on new protocols and practices in the COVID era. So rather than go on, I'm going to let Tim Barker and Dave Menges share with you an update on the recent staff trainings that have occurred.
Hi, my name's Tim Barker. I'm the Director of Operations for the Hurricane Island Outward Bound School. As of last Wednesday, the school closed out Phase 1 of a 3-phase training cycle aimed at piloting the new best practices for COVID-19 mitigation with students in the field. 14 staff participated, some hailing from the land side, others hailing from the seaside. In the end, all staff that participated were feeling encouraged and optimistic about operating in Florida this winter.
Hi everybody, this is Dave Menges coming to you from Wheeler Bay. I was part of the staff training group that ended about a week ago that was focusing on COVID mitigation practices and systems, and I just wanted to share a couple thoughts about our time together last week. First and foremost, it was so great to be back together in the HIOBS community, spend time with dear friends, and to connect, which was really great. The training itself was really thought-provoking, and learned a lot from that. We shared a lot of ideas. We practiced systems, and I guess the main takeaway from our time together was that at the end of the day, there was a real sense of hope and optimism and excitement about getting back in the field. And collectively, I know both the land group out of Newry and the sea folks out of Wheeler Bay all felt this incredible sense of enthusiasm and hope that we can do this, and we're going to do it, and we can do it well and safely. And I just want to thank all the people who did all the legwork in advance of that training to make it happen and to pull it off, and to the board and Eric. Thanks for giving us the opportunity. We learned a lot, and we're grateful for that. And we are fired up to get back in the field. So thank you so much.
Hey, Dave and Tim, thanks so much for that. Dave, really appreciate your reflections on the optimism that you experienced from the course and felt that the participants around you did as well. And I also want to thank everybody who took part in that training, and in particular, shout out Sarah Chestnut and Tim Barker, who worked tirelessly to pull that together and make it happen for the organization and for everybody involved. So before I sign off, I'd just like to pitch it to one more very special guest who's beloved by many people here today.
Greetings to my HIOBS colleagues and friends. We're too far apart these days, I know, but we all hold something in our hearts that is true. We are crew, not passengers on this journey, and we will be together again. May our journey be long.
Thanks, Andrew. That was fantastic. Julia Marr, are you there?
You know I am. I'm here in Command Central, as we like to call it, or the cozy conference room up in Camden at the HIOBS office. And I'm really excited to hear and sense some of that enthusiasm. I hope that everybody on the call tonight got some of that enthusiasm about our staff training, the programs that are happening in the field. It felt amazing to see students back on our base again last weekend. But with that, I know probably some of your questions have been answered, but there are probably still more to come. So if you have a question for us, please, again, check out the bottom of your screen, the little Q&A section here. You can type in a question. I've got a few questions that folks were kind enough to email in before the event, and so we're going to start with those. And I'm just going to introduce really quickly our panelists. So you have myself, I'm the development director here at Hurricane Island Outward Bound School. We've got Eric on with us. Victoria is going to jump back on and field questions. We also have Jack Pete, who's joining us all the way from California, who's going to help us ask questions, answer questions. Andrew is here too, live, to talk about program and program updates. And we also have Mish Summers, who is our marketing and admissions director, to talk about some of the things that have happened with students and families this year. So we can see them all sort of joining us as we're jumping on. It looks like we've got a question in the chat, which is excellent. I'm going to start with a pretty broad-based question that I know has been on a lot of folks' minds, which is, when are we getting back in the field, which we've heard a little bit about. How are we getting back in the field? And what are we doing to keep students safe as we do so?
I'll take that one. As I said before, this fall, we did dip our toe in the water. What we didn't do this fall was get out on long wilderness expeditions, but we did do Newry-based OBP programs. We did another short program here at Wheeler Bay with a local organization in Mid-Coast Maine called Trekkers, and we had a great staff training. But the true test of getting out in the field will come this winter down in Florida. Currently, we are enrolling 4 semester courses, all between 50 and 65 days in length. And these courses are done in conjunction with the other Outward Bound schools. So one of the courses will start in Colorado with mountaineering and end in Florida with sailing. We have 2 going on with the Voyager Outward Bound School. One will start in Texas in Big Bend and end up in Florida sailing. They'll canoe in Texas and end in Florida. The other one will start in Florida, and then we'll transition back to Ely, Minnesota, where the students will end up with a dog sledding expedition. And then the final semester is a semester in conjunction with the North Carolina Outward Bound School, where we'll canoe around the Everglades and then jump on poling boats and continue the expedition from there. So it's pretty darn exciting, the different types of semester courses that we're going to be offering. And Mish can talk a little bit to the demand of that. But before I pass it over to Mish to talk about some of the questions that she's getting from parents, let's talk a little bit about the health and safety protocols that we're fashioning. First of all students will do a PCR COVID test prior to traveling to the course start location, whether that's down in Big Pine Key or one of the other school's base camps. We will then test the student again on day 1 or 2 of course to ensure that they didn't contract COVID along the way. Every single course will go through a 14-day period from day 1 to day 14, where we will be masked and maintain physical distancing while trying to do, or in some cases where we can, expedition-based skills. So in Florida, where we obviously won't be able to jump on poling boats and get out right away, we will be base camping and doing a series of wilderness first aid. We will do an open water scuba dive certification program, and we will do light boat sailing to get students ready to go on their expedition. At the end of that 14-day period, if we have not seen anyone get sick or feel symptomatic, we'll consider being in the quote unquote bubble, and the expedition will commence from there, and it will be outward bound just as we used to know it. So Mish, why don't I just turn it over to you real quick? How are the phones doing? How are the student calls coming in?
Thanks so much, Eric. Hi, everybody. We've been definitely talking to a lot of families who usually would come to us anyway for a gap year kind of a program. As our programs are domestic, we weren't really sure how that was going to sit with people, but we are hearing resounding excitement and delight that we're offering programming to start with, that it has a long format, and that we're doing it the way that we're doing it. So we're really hearing just great things. In fact, the OBSG folks, who is the national organization that does marketing, they've been speaking to gap year consultants who've been telling them that the demand for this kind of programming is higher this year than ever. And I think we can all imagine why that is. There's a lot of students who aren't going to college, who are looking for other options, or who are trying college out and finding it's not working for them. So we're super excited that there's a great demand, and we're going to meet it right at the right time.
Thanks, Mish. So as we prepare and get ready for Florida programming again, we're also getting ready for summer. And while that seems light years away right now, and lots of things are going to change, we know that between now and then, we are planning a very full summer season from June until the end of August, just like we have in the past. I don't think, quite honestly, we're going to be able to have the same volume of students that we've had in years past, at least in this first summer, hopefully post-pandemic, maybe still in the pandemic, but we will be getting out in the field, knock on wood. Julia, what's next? Throw another one at us.
Excellent. All right. So I've had a couple of questions before the program, and I've got one now from Allie asking about veterans courses and how will veterans courses work in this new environment.
Who wants that one, Mish or Andrew?
Well, I can start, and I'll hand it off to you, Andrew. How's that?
Sure.
So a lot of our programs, and Allie, I know that there's a group program format that we've been talking about for veterans that that allows us, all kinds of flexibility and openness. But many of our veterans come to us through an open enrollment format, which is what was our term for go on the website and sign up. And that veteran 6-day kind of a format is something we're just holding off on creating those options for the first half of the year. So there is definite interest out there around those veterans programs, but we've been lucky enough to be working with a lot of partners. And so we have a Nostos program, which is a program that we've been working with veterans in a group format coming from a wide variety of backgrounds. But that group format is something we're still talking to that partner about. And Andrew, I know you're talking with other groups who are in a group format. So I'd love to pass off to you to talk about that.
Sure. Thanks, Mish. Hi, everyone. Good to be with you tonight. Well, Allie, appreciate you asking the question. I'll say my mind immediately goes to you and to the University of Southern Maine participants. We're really excited to be opening a new relationship with you, with the school, with the many veterans that you serve on campus. And in as much as we can form some contained or private cohorts with your participants, I think it gives us quite a bit of latitude to think about how we can engage with you here in Maine as we think about engaging with private clients, whether it's a professional team or a group like yours from campus. The idea that folks are central here in Maine makes life quite a bit easier. And I think we've got a lot of latitude, as I said, to think about programming by sea, by land here in Maine.
Thanks, Andrew. Keep them coming, Julia.
All right, so I'm going to ask I'm going to combine a couple of questions here. So we've got a question from Jim asking about all of the people who are on this webinar tonight are near and dear to HIOBS, and they're wondering what are some things that they can do to help us. We also had a question about what are we doing to make sure that Eric is getting the help and support that he needs, because this has been a really tough year. So I'll take a stab at this one, which is I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to our incredible family and community for the outreach and the support that we've seen throughout the year. We had a Hope on the Horizon campaign that we ran this past spring and exceeded our matching goal. So had a very generous match challenge, $200,000, and we raised upwards of 220. And that was coming in from donors of all sorts and all sizes of gifts, and they all are incredibly meaningful. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of everybody here. So I'll take that one, and then I don't know, Eric, if I should pass it off to you. How are you getting support? How are you making it through?
Well, first of all, what else can you do to help HIOBS do what you have all been doing forever and ever and ever, which is tell the story, get out there and be apostles for the Outward Bound experience. Send us students, college students who are in their first semester of remote learning away from their campus who would love nothing better than to get out in the wilderness and not look at Zoom screens. Send them our way. That's a really important thing that you can do. The other one is do what you've been doing. I've had so many of you reach out and just pick up the phone and say, hey, Eric, been thinking about you. I'm here on the other end if you need me. That kind of support, not just for me, but for the school, means a ton. So keep doing what you're doing, folks. And thank you for being there for HIOBS.
Excellent.
I'll echo what Eric just said. Real quickly, is telling the story is really important, and also right now telling the story that Eric just told us about, that we are coming back. We're going to open again, and we're going to do this as safely and carefully as we can. And I think that what I've heard in the past couple of months, and you're going to hear it again today, is that Outward Bound is more important now than ever, and I truly believe that. And again, echoing Eric, it's the little things. I mean, it goes a long way. It's like one little M&M after 14 days in that polling boat. It is good. And the messages and the emails and the notes, they're extraordinary and they're important and they're really meaningful. And as a board, we've had a very hard time, getting Eric to accept our praise and to accept anything other than our support, because that's the kind of leader he is. But I think, keep him going, keep the emails coming, keep the messages coming, and we'll be good. And thank you.
Jack, did you want to say something?
Well, as some of you may know, I am also the chairman of the development committee, and I would hate to let a good opportunity pass to remind that the M&Ms after 14 days taste really good, and all the support we can give Eric emotionally is incredibly important. A few dollars here and there never hurts as well. We have been extraordinarily fortunate to have many ardent supporters step up and new supporters step in this year to bolster our fundraising. And we hope that will continue. And we hope that you're inspired from today's AGM to consider us even more.
Thanks, Jack. Julia, we got time for about one more, and then we've got to move on because the sun's going to set, and I'm going to have to get my headlamp out, which unfortunately I forgot. It's in my duffel bag back like 10 miles away.
All right. Well, I'm gonna close with a question about our alums, and I've got one from Sean here in the Q&A, but we had a couple sent in to us via email, and I think one of the questions is, how are we keeping in touch with our alumni community, and how are we helping our alumni connect with other alumni from Hurricane Island Outward Bound School? And I see that Aaron, our incredible chat assistant, has put up a link to our Facebook group, and so I would urge you, if you are not a member of the Hurricane Island School Facebook group, not necessarily the page, to get on there, because it's a great way to get in touch with other alums and to find other alums from your watch, from your year, or who've had similar experiences to you. So please do that. And then I think Mish might be able to speak to this too, but we've gotten some really interesting information this year, which is some old alumni data, which we haven't had for a long time. And so we're working hard to figure out a good strategy to see who's behind that data and see who's still with us and how it is that you're going to want to engage with us in the future. Mish, I don't know if there's anything you would add to that.
Nothing to add, really. We are essentially, got a lot of data. We want to figure out if it's right. So if you start getting some emails from us in the new year where we're like, hey, do you want to hear from us? Please respond. Please let us know if if you want to hear from us in certain ways. We're really going to do a good job with that. We're going to be sending newsletters out, and we are pretty active on social media. So I would ask that if you get onto any social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, all the rest of it, that if you see something that strikes your heart, like it, share it, and just let's get the word out.
Excellent. Mish. Well, I just say thank you. Thank you for all the questions that came in. I know we didn't get to all of them, but again, we will circle back with you and make sure that we've answered your questions. So if they didn't get answered right now, just wait, because next week they will be. And I'm thrilled right now to pass it over to Jack Pete, our future board chair.
Oh, thank you very much, Julia. And yes, I'm Jack Pete. I'm a member of the board and an alum, H4 1966. So I've got a few miles off the stern since I was on Hurricane Island. But being back involved with the school has been a thrill for me, and looking forward to serving more in the future. I just want to say that 185 registrants, along with another 15 staff, that's an incredible turnout. And to have done so without lobster as a lure is just all the more incredible. I know, speaking for myself, I'm missing that a lot. I wanted to share just briefly a couple of thoughts with you all. We had a board and council joint meeting 2 days ago, and during that call, we had an opportunity, each one of us, to share some stories about our time these past 6-7 months of COVID. And I can say that while there were some very touching and emotional moments there, some people have lost loved ones. Many have lost time with family, with work. The message that came through from that group is so uplifting and so powerful and so optimistic about Outward Bound, about Hurricane Island Outward Bound. It was a very striking testimony to me of the strength of Outward Bound and what we have learned as students, what we have taught as instructors, what we administer as employees and the senior staff. It's a remarkable feeling to see that reflected in the leadership that is here for Outward Bound. And along with that, I was reminded of what is a truism on every Outward Bound course. In every experience, there's always one or two of those Outward Bound moments when, as a student or as an instructor, you're going, oh boy, now this isn't what we planned for. How are we going to get through this? And all the training that we've had and all the experience that we've had on courses over the years poises us, Outward Bound leaders and supporters, for this moment. It poises us to be prepared to launch Outward Bound, to launch Hurricane Island again after this hibernation period, to begin serving our students again, to begin doing those things that enrich our, not only the students, but ourselves. And this is one of those moments. And we are poised for it. We're preparing for it. And we can't wait to get back into the field and start serving our constituencies once again. Just wanted to share that with you. Looking forward to meeting with many of you as time goes on, especially next year at the AGM. Thank you all for tuning in tonight, and look forward to seeing you soon.